Folks, on my bench right now is a turntable that I picked up, and I've been working on it actually for a few months trying to get everything figured out on it. This is a dual 714Q, commonly known as the Quaalude. There were two turntables to this series, the 714 and the 731. The only difference being is that the 731 had a display on the front with LEDs. And when I picked this up, I kind of thought I was getting it at a good price, but it's kind of turned into a money pit in the end. Still a very nice turntable, and I think it's going to be worthwhile when all is said and done, but it's much more than I expected. First of all, the guy had warned me that 45 speed did not work on this turntable. The cartridge that was mounted on here was completely inappropriate and haphazardly mounted, so it's completely wrong. And even if it was a decent cartridge, it still would not have sounded right because it was completely out of alignment the way they put it on there. And what's worse is that in the past, apparently somebody tried going in there and fixing it and obviously didn't know what they were doing. And I've seen that so often that it really has turned me off to vintage equipment at this point. Trying not only to repair the problem, but to repair somebody else's uneducated attempt. So here's a good example. He didn't know how to get, let's see if I can get this thing to focus. May not do it for me. Now, you can see there's a bend in that screw there. He didn't know how to undo the securing screws to get the turntable off of the plinth. So I guess he went in there with a pair of pliers and just bent them up. And I'll show you that now. I'm going to have to actually get a tap and die and redo these threads because they were buggered so bad I had to use vice grips to get them off of the turntable. And this one here I hammered straight, but let me show you the proper way. These are shipping screws as well as the suspension. So when the turntable's in use, it's on springs and these screws are tightened down. Then when you go to ship the turntable, when it's shipped to you, you unscrew, if I get it to grab, this is part of the problem. You unscrew it to these lower threads here, and there's washers that are fitting on the bottom, and that will pull up tight and snug up against the U-shaped frame that's inside the plinth. And it'll secure this down so that it can be transported safely. Let's see if I can get this here. There, that's starting to unscrew there. But to take the plinth off, you don't unscrew it all the way. You just unscrew the top portion so that this screw, you know what, I'm going to stop the camera and we'll zoom in here so I can show you. So you have 3 of these screws on this turntable. There may be some models that have 4 screws. So you lift up so you get into that dead zone without threads, and then you're going to tilt all 3 screws outward and lift up. Sometimes it's easier to lift up one at a time, get it undone, put something under there, and then work on the other 3. So don't grab vice grips and don't go bending these suckers up. Just do it the proper way. If you follow the directions, you'll have no trouble. And like I mentioned, been working on this turntable for a while now, wrapping it up. But it was obvious that the video was becoming very long with all the issues that I had to investigate and track down to correct. So I'm breaking everything into 2 videos, this one being the first. And then as I finish up the remaining issues and do my final video recordings, and we'll do a field test on it, that will be part 2. So hopefully that will be following up very soon. And if you're going to want to see that second half, hit the subscribe button. That way you'll get noticed when it is posted. So let's get started on this and show you what I found and show you what I did. Here's the dual 714 off of its plinth. I have it sitting on some foam egg crate with the tone arm off the edge of the foam to protect everything. And let me take the camera off of the tripod and I'll freehand it to show you the various components and tell you what they are. Alright, I'll go counterclockwise around the internals here. We have the power transformer. The AC line comes in here and distributes, looks like it's a AC 230 volts. I'll have to verify that. Over here, you remove that screw, the little cover comes off, and you have a safety capacitor there. I'll be replacing that. That is a Y safety capacitor, 0.01. You can look it up in the schematic that I'll have listed down below. This hasn't failed, but these are known to fail. And what all that is, as far as I know, is just it absorbs the little pop that you will get, or click that you will get, noise that you will get, whenever this power switch down here engages. So when you move the tone arm, it presses that little button there. There's a switch up underneath this capacitor, and that's just a noise absorbing. Over here you get to PC board 9600, and let's get in there. See, like that resistor's marked R9607. Makes it easier when you're looking at the parts list or the schematic. It will identify by those numbers, as you'll see. And this is the silent circuit. So there's a little nut that goes there. You remove the cover, and there's a reed switch here which goes to the tone arm wires, and then when I guess the tone arm's not engaged, it opens up that reed switch so there's no sound from the cartridge going to the amplifier. We move our way down here. This is board number 9500, and this controls this solenoid here. This is a redundant system, in my opinion. Could have been done without on this turntable. It's just that electronic switch that's on the front of the turntable plinth that you push it and it'll raise the tone arm for you. It's a cueing button that's operated electrically. Yeah, something that I feel is just, in my opinion, could have been done without. Then we have module number 91, 93, and 92. And they are all just listed as module 1, 2, and 3. And these really, I'm taking are all for the control of the speed of the turntable. I think this one may be the stroboscope. There the strobe wires go. No, actually they go up there. So yeah, it's hard to say. The stroboscope on here varies. It varies according to the set speed that you select. So it's not dependent on 60 cycles like your typical stroboscope on most turntables. That's why this turntable platter only has one set of black and silver bars around the rim for you to check the speed. And then lastly, 9000, 9000, did I say 100 earlier? It's 1000. This is the motor control board up here. Now, if you have runaway speed on your turntable, this is the board you really want to focus on. This capacitor here, it's thought that this capacitor fails and it will take out this IC right here, which is just an op amp. It's a RC4559. Can be replaced with a 4558, 4560, maybe a 4580, but the 4558 is real common, real easy to find. 4559, a little more difficult. And they're all just op amps. I mean, you can take this out and make a little headphone amplifier out of that thing. But you want to stay with the same series. The 4580 may be different enough that you don't want to use it, but the 4558, 4559, and 4560 should be fine. Okay, now I've given you a rundown of the internals here. Now what am I going to do? As I'd mentioned before, the problem with this particular turntable is that it simply will not play at the speed of 45. It'll do 33 just fine. Well, my first order of business is going to be to replace all these old 1979, was it 45-year-old capacitors on everything first. And I went to Mauser, bought the good stuff. I like this turntable, and I think when I'm done it's going to be a reasonably valuable turntable, so I bought all Panasonic capacitors from a reputable source. I didn't cut any corners there, but there are two caveats. And let me go freehand again. Now you have a big 1000 microfarad capacitor right there that if you look on the schematic, it lists it as, or the parts list, it'll list it as a 470 microfarad capacitor. And I've read blogs where people have replaced that capacitor with 470, saying, oh, obviously it was a mistake, etc. That's what caused this op amp to burn out. Nope, that's actually not correct. If you look at both of the links I have below, or both of the manuals listed below, they had an addendum correcting that and saying that that is supposed to be a 1000 microfarad capacitor. So don't put a 470 in there, put in 1000. The one they don't correct is this one right here. 220 microfarad capacitor is listed as a 47 microfarad in the parts list. But if you look into the schematic, that is listed as a 220. Unfortunately, when I did my order from Mauser, I didn't order any 220, so I'm going to put a junk capacitor or a cheapie in there that I have that tests out on the meter okay. And then down the road, next time I do an order, I will put a Panasonic or a Nichicon or something in there to make sure that this turntable has the good stuff. Okay, now what else am I going to check on? Always check all your solder joints, and some along this here look like, I'll take a picture of it and see if I can get a capture of what I see with my eye. And I see little rings around the contacts there. Could be bad solder joints, hard to say, so I will put flux on there and refloat some new solder on all of those just to be sure. I mean, if that is true, that could be the source of my problem of not going into 45. And then over here, like I'd mentioned when reviewing the parts, if you have the runaway speed problem, it could be that IC right there. Cheap, easy to get. Of course, you're going to be replacing all the capacitors. Don't do anything unless you replace all the capacitors. And the other problem you could have if it's runaway speed, underneath this cover, there's like a magnetic stroboscope type of sensor thing in there that's plate, so I'm not going to take this apart just for the sake of showing you. I don't have that problem. But it delaminates and separates, so you basically just crazy glue it back together, reassemble it, and your problem is solved. When you're looking at the parts list, you're going to see some other electrolytic capacitors. Two of them that I know of, this one here and this one here. Those are tantalum capacitors. They are not known for failing, but when they do fail, they fail catastrophically. So these look fine. It's not a liquid electrolytic capacitor, it's a dry electrolytic capacitor, so their lifespan is much higher, maybe infinite, I don't know exactly, but they're not known for failing. So I will lift one leg off the capacitor, desolder it, test it, see if it's fine, and put it back in. But I really don't expect any problems with those two, just because, like I said, when these fail, they usually burn up. So these look fine, they should be fine. If they look fine for you, they should be good. All right, so now I'm going to go through and I'm going to replace all these capacitors that I mentioned. As I pull each one, I'm going to test it on my meter and see how it reads. And I recommend you do the same thing also, because if you test this capacitor and this comes up as a resistor, open, close, whatever it comes up as, but it's wrong, after you replace that, if your problem persists, then you know to start checking everything that's in the circuit around that capacitor. Start tracing through, see what this capacitor may have taken out along with it when it died. Fortunately, the Germans thought this turntable out very well. It's built like a Mercedes. Easy to work on. So I'll start with this board right here. All you got to do is remove the holder, set that aside, and then everything unplugs. Just easy peasy. So I'll be able to unsolder that capacitor, put the new one in, boom, I'm done. If you got to replace that IC, just use your desoldering tool, unsolder the legs, pop it out of there, pop the new one in. And that is true for all of these. Anything that has wires on it, I'm going to mark the wires, make sure I get everything back in the right order. There is a harness here that loops underneath the board and is soldered into the motor control board over here, so you can just unplug here, remove this board, remove this board. The exception is the solenoid board back here, this board here. These have wires soldered into them that you can't unplug, but they're tiny. You got plenty of lead wire. I'll be able to flip them over, unsolder. There's one capacitor there, two here. Quick and easy on those, no problem. Very easy to work on, and this is wide open. I'll be able to replace that, no problem. All right, the rattling I heard inside this box with the transformer was actually the nuts came loose. Two of the nuts came loose on the top. But there's a conundrum here. And the other two nuts were also, most of the way threaded themselves off. It's through bolted with slotted screws on the underside of the casing there. So you have to go to the platter side of the tabletop and undo two screws to undo this box. At that point, the screws that are loose without nuts on there come loose, they just fall out. And the order that you have to assemble is the screw's going to go through the box. Then you got to put a spacer on underneath, then a washer on top of that, then the transformer goes on, and then the nut goes on top without a washer. And this is going to fight you as you're working on this. The lid doesn't come off, by the way, very easily. There's 2 screws that hold it in. Then you've got to pry it off. There is a fuse back here on this circuit board, and you got to fight this circuit board to get that off. By the time you're done working on this, you're going to be screaming Nazi bastards at Dual. It's a pain in the ass. But I found the best way to do it is put your screw through, hold the screw in place on the other side so it doesn't just fall out on you again, drop the spacer on, drop the washer on, and then put a piece of masking tape holding it into place. Then when you go to plop the transformer back onto those 4 studs, you're going to just hand spin those nuts on so that you're holding the screws in place. The space is so tight between the transformer and the nuts, I couldn't get a nut driver on it, and it's a weird size. It's 5.5 millimeters. So it'll be basically hold it with a pair of pliers and use a slotted screwdriver from this side to tighten those screws down. Yeah, this is probably the most fun out of everything on working on this turntable. All right, transformers back in place, secured. I want to show you that there is a fuse in there. It says it's 125 milliamp. I was going to take it out and maybe replace it, but it's, I don't know if it's a quick blow or not, but it's like a light bulb filament style fuse. And all I have is the regular old wire fuse, so I'm going to leave that alone. Fuses, maybe because of flux inside or something, I have had them fail on their own for no apparent reason. And they look perfectly fine, but when you check continuity, there's nothing there. Got this tightened down. I locked the threads in with some German Schlabensgluben, and so hopefully that is secured once and for all. Okay, capacitors are all replaced. Safety capacitor, 2 caps over here on the motorboard. No capacitors on here get replaced. There's 1 over here. That's all done. Now I'm going to button it all back together and prep to do an initial test. And when you put your cover back on, don't forget to put in your insulator plate that goes right in there. Okay, now that I have all the capacitors replaced, I had to check the voltages, and let me show you where the test points are for that. So right here you'll notice there is your positive 15 volt, positive 5 volt rail. Over here you see marked as a positive 15 volt rail, and that's running on the outside trace. Actually, the ground trace is this one you see curving around right here. And your negative 5 volt is right down here. So after replacing all the capacitors and I checked my voltages, all my voltages checked out fine. But when you're testing for your voltages, you can't use chassis ground. Chassis ground is not part of the circuit. You have to use this ground over here. And let me show you an easier way to get the voltages, at least on the using the ground, the 15 and the positive 5. Okay, I'm going to go freehand here to show you. On the back here there are 3 lugs, X, Y, and then it's marked with an upside down T. That's your ground lug. And I just made a little lead with a spade lug that I crimped a little bit and pushed onto the ground lug to make it easier for all of my testing. But you can test your voltages here. On the other model, the 731, wires will be soldered onto these lugs. These are not actually test points. These are actually the solder lugs to power the front display that I had mentioned earlier. Here's the front control panel. This switch was dead. I had to use contact cleaner on that really good. Get in there. It did the same thing for the queuing arm switch. And now both of them have continuity when pressed. I also sprayed the controls, the speed controls out with some deoxit and turned them really good to make sure they're operational. Alright, I have it all back together. Now let's do a test to see if I have fixed the problem, or at least made anything better. So we got spinning here. And switch it from 33 to 45. Nothing. Absolutely no improvement whatsoever.